folks, thought it'd be helpful to share a video showing Blender and Fusion 360 and how you might solve a design problem in the two tools and the various approaches to do so. These tools often come up in the same conversation and they are not really comparables. They both output a 3D model, if you will, but they're quite different. Blender is a animation timeline-based software that is built heavily for modeling, texturing, rendering, UV editing, animation, motion tracking, and is used in cinema a lot. But it does a great job of also allowing many folks to create some primitive style shapes for 3D printing and so on and so forth. But it's a beast of a software. When we take a peek at Fusion 360, Fusion 360 excels in very different ways. It is a very accurate computer-aided design system that is all based upon measurements. Most objects are created in Fusion with sketches that are numerically derived and constrained designs that you then extrude and bevel and refine, etc. So they couldn't really be more opposite. Knowing when to reach for one or the other can be really helpful. So what if we wanted to design this simple shape here? Well, simple-ish. I'm not going to model the handle, but let's focus on the body here, which is a polygon of sorts, and where you need a bottom and a top and this little spout. So we'll start in Blender. When you open Blender, you're going to get this default environment always with a cube and a light and a camera. Most people just delete it. And one thing to note, and I'm going to click on our inspector here in the upper right, is that the world units in Blender by default is meters, which is humongous if you're considering 3D printing. And you're going to want to change your world units and the Blender properties to millimeters. What I do is I actually have created just a kind of starter file that has the world units set to millimeters, and I also have a wireframe in here showing me the build volume of a Bamboo X1 carbon, so it can help me with scaling and so on and so forth. So let's start modeling this thing out. Now, I could bring in an image plane and get really accurate here with visual references, but I just kind of wanted this to be a scrappy walkthrough so that y'all can see the differences. And also in the bottom left-hand corner here, you can see the keys I'm pressing. So to add an object in Blender, we hit Shift A. We're going to go down to a cylinder. Now, after you've added an object, don't move it or scale it quite yet, because this property panel will disappear. And we want to change the vertices to 8. And we're going to hit enter. I realize it's kind of small, and now I'm going to hit the S key to scale it up. And as soon as I release, you'll notice that property panel disappeared. That's why we didn't want to move it right out of the gate. Okay, and now we need to give this a bit of a taper. Blender has two discrete modes when you're in this layout tab, which is your kind of general modeling tab. If you hit the tab key, you will go into direct selection, aka edit mode. And this allows you to manipulate edges, vertices, and faces with the 1, 2, and 3 key. The 1 key will select vertices, the 2 key will select edges, and the 3 key will allow you to manipulate faces. Side note, if you don't see the gimbal, you can go up to this menu with the little bow and arrow, and you can turn on and turn off this gimbal default. Sometimes that's not on. A lot of folks don't like to see it because they just use keyboard shortcuts. G allows you to grab something, and S allows you to scale. R allows you to rotate, and so a lot of people just fly through Blender using all those keyboard shortcuts. So that's worth noting. Okay, so we're going to go into edit mode by hitting tab, hit the 1 key, or I could have just used the face that was there before, and I want to scale this. I'm going to show you something real quick. What if I wanted to get all the vertices, but this is the view I was at, and I zoomed up and notice I didn't get these back vertices. If I hit the Z key and I go into toggle X-ray, I can see now through it, and now I can grab all those vertices. So this Z key is the quick shading menu that comes up. Mine is the expanded version of it. You can change this in the Blender properties to, I think by default it only has 4 options, and as you can see this has 6 options. Okay, so we'll just scale this down a little bit to around there. We'll hit the tab key. I'm gonna get out of the toggle X-ray mode, and here's our base shape. It's probably not totally to scale, but that's all right. The one thing that we might want to do here is we might want to add some refinements to it. You'll notice that our edges are extremely harsh. They're basic, like 90-degree edges, if you will, or they're really, really sharp, and nothing in the real world is actually sharp. And this is where Blender really thrives. They have a whole modifiers world to them. And under modifiers, you'll find things that are commonly used like deforms and twists and decimate to reduce mesh complexity, and also subdivision surface to add additional geometry. So if I hit subdivision surface and I crank this up to like 4, you'll notice we basically end up with an egg, which makes sense because if I hit the tab key to go into edit mode, what it's doing is it's softening everything here, and there's not enough structural integrity to maintain that shape. So we need to add more geometry. And the way that we can do that is by adding bevels. So I'm gonna hit the 2 key, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit the A key, and it's gonna grab all of our vertices. Now let's say that we wanted to bevel everything. Next I'll hit Control B, and I'll drag out my cursor, and you'll notice that we're getting a bevel. And I can now turn up the bevel increments here underneath this segments. And I'm gonna click off the model and hit the tab key to go back into our object mode, and it's looking a lot better. I can also preview this by turning this little screen on and off. So that is how you add a modifier. The next thing we need to do is we need to add the circular top portion here. So we'll go back into edit mode. I'll hit the 3 key to grab a face, and I'm gonna hit the E key, but I don't wanna extrude it up. What I wanna do is I actually want to kind of like scale the face inward and then pull it up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit the 3 key again, I'm gonna hit E, and before I do anything, I'm gonna hit S to scale it. And so we'll move this in about there, and now I'm gonna hit the E key again, and I'm gonna drag this up. Okay? Great, and obviously it's really, really soft, and we need to add some bevels here as well. So you'll notice it's getting kind of obscured by the object, and this again is where the X-ray mode comes in handy. So I'm gonna hit the 2 key, and I'll also show you a trick here. We can select the entire loop. So if I hold the Option key, it selects the entire edge loop, and if I hold Option Shift, I can add to the selection. And again, go Control B to bevel. We'll drag out a little bevel here, and we'll turn off the we'll turn off X-ray mode. All right, so there's our bottom. We're just going to be mega scrappy here. Now I could use a mirror modifier to create a clone of this object, but we're just going to go Shift D, and it's stuck to your cursor. If you just hit Escape and then drag it up, that's probably the best way to move this object. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the R key to rotate around the X-axis. So if you hit RX or RY, it will constrain it. And then what I can do is I can just tap on my keyboard 90, or I could hit 180, and it will automatically snap it to that increment. And so yeah, we're just going to kind of smash it right up against there. So we've got these basic shapes. All right, so now we need to work on the top a little bit. So we're gonna go back into edit mode. I'm gonna hit the 3 key, and I'm actually gonna delete this face by hitting X, and I get this option menu, faces. We wanna remove the faces. While I'm in edit mode, I need to add a loop around this body because I'm gonna pull this out for the little pore spout. And we do that by hitting Control R. And Control R lets you add loops, and I can use my mouse wheel to increase or decrease. So I'm just gonna add this loop. I'm gonna put it right there, and we're good. Now I'm gonna use some vertices. So I'm gonna hit the 1 key, I'm gonna grab these vertices, yank them out. Let's pull it out a little farther. And, oh, you know what? I missed some of the vertices. So I'm gonna undo this. I'm gonna go all the way back. I'm gonna hit the Z key, and I'm gonna go back into X-ray. That's why X-ray is really good. And make sure that I get all the vertices, and we'll pull that out, and we'll get out of X-ray mode. And so now we've got our little spout. The next thing we need to do is need to create the top. So we're going to create another shape, Shift A. Let's add a cylinder. I'm going to zoom out because it's down at the bottom. We'll drag it up, scale it, and we'll scale it to about there. And now what I'm going to do is move this up, and we're going to scale it in the Z. So I'm going to hit SZ, and we'll shrink it way down. Now there's something to take note of that's going to happen here, and I'm going to scroll this down. You'll notice over here in our panel that our scale is now not 1, 1, 1, and 1. If I click, no, that one's been scaled too. This will make sense. Actually, I'm sorry. These are all the same. That's what you want. When your scaling gets a little out of whack, where all of the scale factors are not the same, it can impact the modifiers that you add, and this will make sense in a second. So if I tab into edit mode, and again, let's say that we wanted to bevel all of the top and bottom edges, we'll hit the 2 key, select all those, select the bottom edges, Control B to bevel, and oh, what the heck is going on? It's not really beveling the side, it's only beveling the tops. Well, that's because the scale this has been scaled in the object mode. If I had scaled this in the edit mode, it wouldn't affect the actual scale of the model. I know that can be a little bit confusing, but if you're gonna scale things, you generally wanna do it when you're in the direct edit mode, not in object mode. But it's okay, we can fix that. And we can fix it by simply resetting the transforms. You can hit Control A to bring it up, and I'm gonna reset rotation and scale. The other way you could do that is you can go up to the object menu, apply, and you'll see those same options here. You'll notice the color got a little weird on the top. That's okay, it's just the normals, which I'm not gonna get into at the moment, but the geometry is still fine. Okay, so now let's go back and let's try and do that again. So we're gonna select all of the edges once again, and let's do Control B, and there we go. Now it's working the way that we so hoped. So we could do a bevel right now, but actually kind of thinking about what we want to do with this, that might not be the best idea. So I'm going to undo that. And before we go ahead and run that bevel, we're going to select this top face, and I'm going to do the E, immediately hit S, scale it down, pull it up, and this is going to be the lid and the handle. So from here, we'll do another E to extrude. From here, we'll do ES, and I'm going to pull it up, E to extrude, ES, scale it in, pull it up. Okay, there we go. So we got our top, and now we need to soften this. So let's do some bevels. So we're going to select all of these edges right here. Let's go 2. I'm going to bulk select all of those. Control B to bevel. Right around there, and then we want to do some beveling here as well. So let's just select all of these edges, Control B, and we'll just add some beveling, and we'll exit out. Okay, and then lastly, we want to do the same thing here. We want to add a modifier, generate subdivision surface. 1, 2, 3, and one of the things that happened here is I didn't bevel the vertical edges. So let's go ahead and do that. Now this might get a little wonky. Sometimes depending on the order in which you apply bevels can kind of mess some things up, but let's just see what happens here. So we're going to select all of these. And we'll go Control B. And we'll bevel that out. Tab out of it. Okay. We'll basically call that good. Yeah, you would need to do some finessing on the lip, and this doesn't have any thickness to it. You might want to add a solidify modifier, but nonetheless, that's like a kind of normal-ish workflow inside of Blender. But let's assume you wanted to make a change to your model here, like, oh shoot, you know, it's not supposed to be 8-sided, it was supposed to be 6-sided. That's where there's quite a bit of a problem, because in order to change something like that in Blender, you would have to do one of two things. You would have to go in here and like start grabbing faces and basically delete the faces and then somehow work out how to patch these holes, which obviously is not going to work because this is a polygon primitive. The long and the short of it is you probably would have to start over. Now, before we do bail out of Blender, there's one other area that is worth mentioning because it's probably one of the most prominent features that is used in Blender. And I'm gonna just delete all of this stuff and we're gonna add a new cube. I'm gonna go Mesh Cube, scale this thing up, and I'm going to go apply, let's say all transforms. I'm gonna add a modifier, and in this case, I'm gonna do a remesh, and I'm going to turn down the voxel size a lot because I want this to have a lot of detail. And you'll see in a moment what's happening. Basically, this is going to add more geometry to our model. And we'll tab into edit mode. Yeah, that looks better. That's not too crazy. Okay, so now if we go up to our tab up at the top, you'll notice there's all these different workspaces. And if you jump over to sculpting, this is the area that allows you, much like clay and using tools with clay, create and work with geometry in a very, very organic fashion. So right now by default, I'm on the draw brush. I'm only going to point out a couple quick things here. You can mirror your drawing on surfaces X, Y, Z independently, or all of them. As soon as I start drawing, you'll notice that it's creating geometry. If I hold the Control key, it subtracts, and if I hold the S key will smooth out artwork. And there are various brushes that you can use to achieve a myriad of results, and that's what all of these brushes are down here. And there's also the ability to create masks and leverage those masks. And so if you wanted this, little cube to not be so sharp, you might go in here and you might use flatten, and you might start kind of like running this all over the edges to flatten it out and like kind of not have it be so perfect. And then you could hit the S key and you can kind of like smooth out some of this and make it look a little more organic. You could also use the draw brush, which is the one that we started with, holding the Control key, and really make some big indentions in here. Hold the S key to smooth this stuff out. So anyways, you get the idea. Like, this is where you see folks making things that look like wood, that look like brick. And there's a lot of great brushes out there too that can make your life easier as far as creating really organic objects that are kind of found in nature, like brick and wood, etc. Because this whole world is based on an alpha system, and if you're familiar with masks, black and white can equate to an extrusion or a recess. So yeah, just wanted to share this too, just to further kind of show with you all one of the big differences between Fusion and Blender. All right, so here we are in Fusion. Let's take a look at how we might try and solve that same design challenge. The way that we start out in Fusion is going to be a little bit different because Fusion is entirely based on sketches for the most part. And I say for the most part because you can create 3D bodies inside of Fusion in some interesting ways as well. Like, I can just go create a box. It's going to ask me which plane I want it on. I'm going to choose the center point here. And then you basically kind of drag out the dimensions of this thing and it kind of self-extrudes. So kind of similar in a sense to how Blender just adds geometry primitives, but this is still actually based on a sketch, and you can kind of even see it beneath it. The other area that you can create bodies that are more organic is under the forms, which is also here in this surface tab. All of these tools let you work in a more organic fashion. But generally speaking, where Fusion really excels is with sketches and driving geometry based off those sketches in a parametric way, which means that you end up with a timeline that allows you to easily undo, alter, and change the state of your model. The problem with modeling in tools like Blender is, let's say that you wanted to change that mocha pot from an 8-sided polygon to a 6-sided polygon. It's extremely hard to do that. You would have to change the entire geometry. You'd have to manually manipulate the geometry or just start over. And that's one of the benefits of Fusion. So to start this off, we're just going to create a sketch by hitting this sketch button in the upper left corner, and it's asking me to choose a plane. I'm going to choose our floor plane here. And now our tools have updated to sketch tools. That's because we're kind of in a mode similar to how Blender has object mode and edit mode, but here when you're in sketch mode, you have different tools that show up. So I'm going to go to the create menu and we're going to create a polygon, and I'm going to create a circumscribed polygon, and we're going to go to the center of the world, and I'm going to kind of drag this out, and I'm not going to click yet because I want to hit the tab key and I want to change the sides to 8. Now, I mentioned a moment ago, like what if you wanted to be able to change these sides in the future? You'd probably want to use a variable, and this would be like num sides, and then there's another area in Fusion where I could change that number and constantly update this. Not going to get into that in this demo, but just know that that is one of the really powerful features of Fusion 360 is creating those properties. Okay, so we've got our base shape here. And now what we can do is we can hit finish sketch and we can extrude this. So we just select the sketch, hit E to extrude, and we're going to end up with a body. And as previously, we need this to be tapered. We could do this the kind of, I'll call it the cheap way, and we could just add a taper to our extrusion, and hit -5, and there we go. We can basically call that good. That's a good starting place. Maybe this isn't as high. Maybe we want it higher. So we can go back to our timeline, which is very nice, and change it. So all I did there was just double click on the extrusion in our timeline at the bottom and make a change to it. All right, now we need to create the circle on top. So I'm gonna right click this time, create sketch. It's gonna sketch on the top surface of this body, and we'll drag out a circle, and we're gonna call that good. Now I'm gonna select that circle, E to extrude, and we'll extrude this up about 5 millimeters. And there we go. Something to note, what if I wanted this extrusion somehow to not be an extrusion, but a recess? If I just drag it down, notice what it will do. It's going into the body, and in some cases it will automatically switch to cut for you. Fusion's usually pretty smart. It didn't do it in this case, but it's probably because I had already saved it. But anyways, you can see here, if I change this to cut, it's creating a recess. I could also make this a completely new body. So if we drag it back up to 5, and I hit OK, what's going to happen in our browser on the left, we'll actually end up with 2 bodies. Now, if you were to 3D print this, the printer actually doesn't care. Like these 2 bodies would still print the same. But some of the reasons why you might want to merge bodies is if you're going to be doing fillets where you want to create smooth surfaces and so on and so forth. You wouldn't be able to fillet this edge really nicely if they were separate bodies, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. Okay, so I think the easiest thing to do here would just be to maybe mirror this body, mirror the geometry on top, and then we can work with it from there. So before we do that, let's add some fillets here to make it a little smoother. And you can see up here in the tool palette, we've got fillet, or you can hit the F key. And so we're gonna select these edges. I haven't yet figured out a way to do kind of what Blender does, where they have a really nice method of selecting all the edges. You could select the face, and if you select the face, and if I just drag this, you'll see what it's gonna do is it's gonna get all the edges associated with that face, which in our case seems to work fine. But just know that you do have to kind of like manually select the edges that you want to apply a fillet to. And let's say that we wanted to add it to these edges as well. You'll see here that we kind of have to go around and, and manually click these edges. So that's all good, but what if we wanted it to look a little bit closer to the example? You'll notice it's kind of got this chamfer that runs across that edge that gives you this really interesting surface. So what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna undo some of this, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So what we'll do is we'll create a sketch, and we're gonna create a sketch in the side view. So I'm gonna turn off bodies, and I'm gonna turn the bodies back on. I did notice these have been separated. It's okay, we can join those back. And I'm gonna draw out a little bit of geometry, and we're gonna go something kind of like this. Doesn't have to be super perfect. I'm gonna say finish sketch. And you might be already kind of hypothesizing about what I'm gonna do here. So we're gonna revolve this geometry around it and we're gonna cut it. So now what I need to do is select my axis. I'm gonna select that axis and we want it to go full 360 and I'm gonna hit done. So that looks a lot better. And it wasn't really all that hard to achieve based on, you know, the steps it required to do it. You'll notice that we're getting a little bit of an issue here, and I know why. It's because the sketch, I think, wasn't protruding out far enough in one of these directions. So let me try and yank this out some more. And there we go. Now I got it nice and smooth. Great. Okay. So now, if we were to mirror what we have on the screen, that's not really what we want because the upper portion of the mocha pot doesn't have this chamfer on it. I'm just gonna mirror both this and that. And then the mirror plane is, let's select this right there and we'll hit OK. Cool beans. All right, so now we need to create a top for our pot. Extrude or create a sketch directly on this top surface. So if I hit the E key and I move this up and instead of join, I change this to new body. 5 millimeters is okay. Now we need this to be tapered. So there's a couple things you could do. You could try and do what we did before, which is like make this taper angle really extreme. Let's invert it. So you could make it like, let's try minus 90. That's gonna be too much, minus 80. 85, 84, 83, yeah, whatever, 82, 83, sure, let's just go 83 to be kind of like cheeky here. And we probably want this to be a little bit higher. And you'll notice the thing with tapers is they increase in the extrusion. So the taper completely just changed when we went from the initial, sorry, the computer's going a little slow here, from the initial taper to when I stretched it up, watch right here, boink. That's why using the taper is not the best idea. So in this case, we're going to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to get rid of that. And we're going to create a construction plane, offset plane. We're going to select our face. We're going to go up about 5 millimeters to right around there. This is where construction planes come in handy because they allow you to create new sketching surfaces. So now I'm going to go onto this surface, create sketch. We're going to create a polygon again. And we're going to put it in the middle. And we're going to make it about, let's say, 5 millimeters. And we need it to be 8-sided. And there we go. And next, we're going to select our surface and our sketch. I need to finish the sketch first. We'll go to create loft. And that's the more proper way to do it. And the reason this is better is I can go back now and let's say that I wanted to raise up the construction plane. It's very easy to make this top now higher or lower because we can just adjust the construction plane because that is where the sketch is residing. And this is, again, why Fusion is so awesome is you can constantly go back into your timeline here and go to a certain point and make alterations and updates and changes, and you're not stuck with some destructive model, destructive process in the sense that in order to make changes, you have to completely undo or rework the entire geometry. All right, great. So let's do the spout. We're going to do a sketch from the top now. So I'm going to say create. I'm just going to hit the sketch menu. And really what we want to do is if I just hit this bottom plane here, I mean, that will work. But we kind of want to start the sketch up a little higher, kind of up where that line is. So what I'll do instead is I'll create another sketch. And what we're going to do is we're going to offset that sketch. We have another sketch plane already up here. And we'll just move this down to right around there. So it sits basically close enough to the top. This. All right, so we're gonna sketch now on this top surface. And here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab a line and I'm gonna hit the X key. And this line type is a dotted line, which is for reference. This won't actually equate to something that can be used to make extrusions. And that's okay, because that's kind of what I want. And then I'm also gonna hit the P key, and the P key lets you project geometry from other sketches or existing models into your current sketch. So now I can use this purple line as a reference. Like if I turn off the bodies, I've got both these lines that I can use as a reference from here. And I'm just gonna go to snap it. There we go, that little green X. We're gonna snap it to the purple line. And then I'm gonna draw another line over here. And now I'm gonna add a constraint to these. I'm gonna make these equal so that they're equal length. And then we'll add a dimension from here to here. And yeah, like 68 looks good. And you'll notice it's now adjusting both because they're equal length. All right, so we have our, we've got our kind of top portion of the nozzle, but if we just kind of grab this thing right now and extrude it, that's not really what we want. It's not gonna work. And now, as I've said before, there's a lot of ways you could do this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a construction plane, and I'm gonna do it based off of the upper part of our little pour spout, and I'm just gonna yank it down a little bit, right around there, and we're gonna draw another sketch on this lower plane. So sometimes what can help is to turn off some of your other sketches if you feel like they're gonna get in the way, and in this case, I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna sketch on this lower plane. Okay, so now we have the nozzle, and if you wanted to, you could come in here and start applying some fillets to that as well. So we could just grab some edges like this, hit the F key, fillet it out a little bit. We could even fillet the bottom here. Ideally, if I was to do this again, I would, okay, we're getting an error there, and it's probably because the fillet is too extreme for the bottom, so I'm gonna add another fillet on here. Wonderful. And we could also then shell this, and you'll see that we have this opening that goes into the inside. So we didn't do the little top piece. And one last trick that I will share that I use a lot is section analysis. And if you don't see this as a shortcut in your toolbar, it's because I've added it, but it's under Inspect Section Analysis. And what this does is it allows you to create a cutting plane. So I'm gonna cut, I'm clicking and holding so I can select through this face. And I'm gonna select YZ and hit OK. And so now it allows us to see the interior of our bodies. It also gives you a great way to see how close things are meeting up. So for 3D printing, tolerances are really important when you have shapes inside of shapes. Etc. If I wanted this analysis to be inverted, I can go up here in my browser, select it, hit edit, flip it to the other side. I could also change its plane if I wanted it to, or I can rotate it. So let's say we rotate it so that we can see how the nozzle is merging in with the body, and turn this off. Well, I hope you learned a couple things here and maybe found some inspiration. The best way to start learning these tools is literally to just start jumping in and making things. Have fun.